The South China Sea, a region of breathtaking beauty, has become a focal point of international tension. Beneath these turquoise waters, a hidden threat simmers. China is developing artificial islands and military outposts, raising concerns about their intentions. For years, China has been expanding its presence, claiming sovereignty over vast swathes of water. The construction of military bases has heightened tensions, raising fears of a potential flashpoint. The United States and its allies have condemned China's actions, calling for a halt to militarization. They argue that China's actions threaten freedom of navigation and international trade. Adding to the unease is the lack of transparency surrounding China's activities. While Beijing claims its intentions are peaceful, the construction of military facilities, including airstrips and radar systems, suggests otherwise. Why the secrecy if China's actions are purely defensive? This lack of transparency fuels suspicion and makes it difficult to engage in meaningful dialogue. One possible explanation for China's secrecy is the desire to avoid international condemnation and potential economic repercussions. By concealing the true extent of their military buildup, China may hope to avoid triggering a strong response from other countries. However, this strategy may ultimately backfire, as the lack of transparency only serves to deepen mistrust and suspicion. Another possibility is that China is using a strategy of incrementalism, gradually expanding its presence and capabilities in the South China Sea over time. By taking small, seemingly insignificant steps, China may hope to avoid triggering a strong response while gradually shifting the balance of power in its favor. The secrecy surrounding China's activities in the South China Sea has led to a great deal of speculation and analysis. China's nuclear arsenal, though smaller than that of the United States and Russia, is rapidly modernizing and expanding. The potential militarization of the South China Sea raises alarming questions about the role of nuclear weapons in China's strategic calculus. Could these disputed waters become a staging ground for nuclear-capable forces, significantly altering the regional security landscape? The deployment of nuclear weapons in the South China Sea would be a highly provocative move, likely triggering a regional arms race and increasing the risk of nuclear conflict. China has repeatedly stated that it adheres to a no-first-use policy, meaning that it would only use nuclear weapons in retaliation for a nuclear attack. However, the lack of transparency surrounding China's nuclear doctrine and capabilities makes it difficult to verify these claims. This uncertainty, combined with China's growing assertiveness in the region, has heightened concerns about the potential for nuclear conflict. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the territorial disputes and establish a code of conduct for all parties operating in the South China Sea are crucial. China's actions in the South China Sea have far-reaching implications. The United States sees China's actions as a direct challenge to its hegemony. The South China Sea is vital for global trade, with trillions of dollars in goods passing through each year. China's control efforts threaten these trade routes, impacting the global economy. The US has increased its military presence and strengthened alliances in response. This has led to a more complex and volatile security environment. The US-China rivalry will have profound implications for the international order. Section 5. A world held hostage, the threat of nuclear conflict. The specter of nuclear war, once a chilling relic of the Cold War, has re-emerged as a tangible threat in the 21st century. The potential for miscalculation, accident or escalation in a crisis involving nuclear-armed states is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of such a conflict. The destructive power of nuclear weapons is unparalleled, capable of inflicting unimaginable death and destruction on a massive scale. The use of even a single nuclear weapon would have catastrophic humanitarian consequences, killing millions of people and contaminating vast areas of land with radioactive fallout. The threat of nuclear war extends beyond the immediate targets of an attack. The use of nuclear weapons would have severe global consequences, triggering a nuclear winter that could disrupt agriculture and lead to widespread famine. The international community has a moral and existential imperative to prevent nuclear war. This requires a renewed commitment to disarmament, non-proliferation, and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. Section 6. The domino effect: regional and global instability. The South China Sea dispute is not just a regional issue, it has the potential to ignite a global conflagration. The involvement of major powers, including the United States, China and Russia, raises the stakes considerably. Any miscalculation or escalation could draw these powers into a direct conflict with potentially catastrophic consequences for the entire world. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that a conflict in the South China Sea would have far-reaching economic consequences. Disruptions to trade, investment and supply chains would be felt worldwide, impacting businesses and consumers alike. The South China Sea dispute also has the potential to exacerbate existing geopolitical tensions and rivalries. The international community must work together to prevent the South China Sea dispute from escalating into a global conflict. This requires a commitment to dialogue, diplomacy, and the peaceful resolution of disputes. Section 7. The human cost of conflict. A grim reminder. Behind the geopolitical maneuvering and strategic calculations lies a stark reality. The human cost of conflict. War inflicts unimaginable suffering on individuals, families, and communities. It disrupts lives, shatters dreams, and leaves lasting scars on the social fabric of nations. Refugees fleeing violence and persecution face perilous journeys and uncertain futures. The destruction of infrastructure and the breakdown of social order can have long-term consequences for education, healthcare, and economic development. The use of nuclear weapons would magnify the human cost of conflict exponentially. The immediate death toll would be staggering, and the long-term health effects of radiation poisoning would be devastating. It is imperative that we remember the human cost of conflict and strive to prevent future tragedies. Section 8. The call to action. What can be done? In the face of these mounting challenges, inaction is not an option. The international community must come together to address the threats to peace and security in the South China Sea. This requires a multifaceted approach that includes diplomacy, military deterrence, and economic pressure. Diplomacy must be the cornerstone of any effort to resolve the disputes in the South China Sea. This requires all parties to engage in good faith negotiations, respecting international law and seeking peaceful solutions. International organizations such as the United Nations can play a vital role in facilitating dialogue and mediating disputes. Military deterrence remains a necessary tool to deter aggression and maintain stability in the region. The United States and its allies must maintain a credible military presence in the South China Sea to discourage any attempts by China to use force to advance its claims. Section 9. The role of international organizations. International organizations, particularly the United Nations, have a crucial role to play in promoting peace and security in the South China Sea. The UN Security Council, tasked with maintaining international peace and security, should take a more proactive role in addressing the disputes in the region. The UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, provides a legal framework for resolving maritime disputes. All parties involved in the South China Sea disputes should respect UNCLOS and seek to resolve their differences through peaceful means. Section 10. The importance of dialogue and diplomacy. Dialogue and diplomacy are essential for resolving the complex issues surrounding the South China Sea. Open lines of communication between all parties are crucial for building trust, reducing tensions, and finding common ground. Track 2 diplomacy, involving academics, experts, and former officials, can complement official diplomatic efforts by providing a platform for informal dialogue and exploring potential solutions. Section 11. Safeguarding our future, a shared responsibility. The South China Sea is a microcosm of the challenges facing the international community in the 21st century. It is a testing ground for the rules-based international order and a reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked nationalism and militarism. Safeguarding peace and security in the South China Sea is a shared responsibility. It requires all nations to act with restraint, respect international law, and pursue peaceful solutions to disputes. The future of the region, and indeed the world, depends on it. We must choose cooperation over confrontation, dialogue over violence, and a shared future over zero-sum rivalry.